What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 101 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genres. I am Megan, self proclaimed content queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation from an author. Sometimes they're returning guests, and sometimes it's someone new. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode. And feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you can catch a previous interview about a book you finished. I do try to be spoiler free with all the books that we're talking about because sometimes they haven't been released yet. But even so, it's a little bit more enjoyable as you know that the subject matter that we're talking about. So basically, when you finish the book, come back, the interview will be ready for you. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I'm encouraging a badass FMC to just say fuck it all and burn it all to the ground. Just please be mindful about around listening ears. If any of you are looking for more bookish podcasts to check out and add more to your reading list, please do go on Instagram and search for Book Podcast Connection. It's a group of over 100 bookish podcasts, a lot of fun people to talk to about your favorite books. And just depending on what you're looking for, there's something for you there. I definitely encourage you guys to check it out. So today's episode features a chat with Kelli Estes. We're talking about her book, Smoke on the Wind. That book is available now. Such a fun chat with Kelli. I didn't know what to expect. Smoke on the Wind is a dual POV, dual timeline. It's got a little bit of a fantastical element to it, but it follows two different women, mothers of sons who are in different journeys of their lives. And it's just the book hit me harder than I expected. I didn't see it coming. And it was really cool to talk to Kelli and hear her obsession with Scotland and the fun experiences and research she did for this book. And I had to let her know my feelings for making me feel the feelings that I did while finishing her book. But I'll let you guys get to it. Here is Kelli Estes.
So today we've got Kelli Estes. We're talking about Smoke on the Wind. That book is available now. Kelli, thank you so much for joining me today. Like I mentioned before, I finished it. I was so emotional. I was not expecting it, and I have a bone to pick with you because I was like swearing at you in my head because I was like, what the hell? I was just not prepared to just tear up multiple times. It was such a powerful story, and I just so magical in a sense. I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here. And I will apologize for making you cry, but secretly, I kind of love it.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
It's yes, that the emotional impact was there for this reader at least.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so to get started, would you please share a summary of the book so that people can follow along with the conversation?
Sure, yes. Smoke on the Wind is a dual timeline novel, which is what I tend to write, which means it's two time periods, present day and historical. It's about two women walking the same path in Scotland in two separate times, both carrying the weight of trauma and fear of her future. And in present day, we have Kiaka Denny. She is an American who is walking the West Highland Way long distance trail with her son Colin the week before she leaves Colin at the University of Glasgow. And then her plan is to fly home alone to the States, and that just terrifies her. The historical storyline, it takes place in 1801, and that is with Sorcha Chisholm and her son Anuis. And they are victims of the Highland clearances, which we can get into more on what that means, but they were brutally evicted from their home and they're forced to walk on what in present day is the West Highland Way, but they're walking this path to the city to find work and figure out what their future is. But they are also evading a murder accusation because someone died in their home while they were being evicted. And so the women have this mysterious connection between them that kind of helps each of them in a way. In most of my dual timelines that I've written in the past, the historical story is static and it's the present day story that is influenced by what they learn about the history. But this one I did something a little different, and there's a little bit of time blending, I guess you could say. It's not time travel, but there's the historical gets influenced a little bit by the present day even, and the question of time linear is just something fun that I wanted to play around with in this one.
Yeah. So, and I'm guessing you haven't really done that before in any of your works. You, even though you said you played around with dual timeline, but you haven't necessarily explored meshing them or somehow, some way.
Yeah, yeah, I have Smoke on the Wind is my third published novel. So my first two, the historical characters didn't know that the present day existed because they're not even born yet, but their story happens. And then in the present day, the character learns about what happened in history and is somehow changed by that knowledge and how their own family might have been involved with that history and such. Where this one took a little different approach. Yeah.
Yeah, you played around with it a little bit. Yeah, I enjoyed that aspect, and of course we'll try to be spoiler free for the most part within reason. One thing I always like to ask is like about the research, and so we can get into the historical context of what you were doing and how you approach the research, most fascinating things to learn and stuff like that.
Yeah, so history is where all books start for me, like the research of the history. And so, like it the story ideas come to me very slowly, and I find them through learning about the history. And so I tend to just pick up a book, nonfiction research book, and just start diving down those rabbit holes. And when I get to the end notes or the footnotes of that research book, I find another research book to pick up. And I find that. And I read a lot about the Highland clearances, about Highland mythology and the Scottish music and Scottish cuisine and Scottish farm tools, even and clothing, like everything. And it just started, these characters started forming in my mind the more I got to know about the world that they lived in. And yeah, so I tend to be a plotter. And so I will do the research and I will make a detailed outline of the entire book before I even start writing it. And which I know is a lot different. Like when I hear other authors talk about how they can just sit down and start writing, I am so jealous because I really wish I could do that because I don't know, just the fun adventure of discovering it as you go sounds exciting to me. But I think because I tend to write such history based stories, I feel like I really need a firm grasp on what the actual history is so that I can create freely within that world. But yeah, so I write to an outline, but I do give myself permission to veer from that. And it always happens
Mm,
this is a tangent, but I always get to like page 100 of a 400-page book. And it's like I need to stop and reread from the beginning and rework my plot. And because I think it's because I get to know the characters a little better by then. So I guess I'm doing a little bit of the pantsing, but mostly plotting. From yeah.
yeah, because they speak to you almost too. Like your characters insist on things happening a certain way, and you're like, "Oh, okay, fine.
Exactly. Yeah. I on you
We're
doing
gonna do this."
yeah.
Yeah.
I plan on you doing this other thing, but nope, you're telling me that's not gonna how it's gonna happen. So I have to change course. And it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, but I could imagine because it's, you're going on the little adventure with them, and I liked it was funny because when you have the map and you have so there's like the visual of all these the trail, the path that they followed, defining, okay, this is where they because it's not Sorsha. What did you pronounce it? It was like Sorchika or
You can call her whatever you want. Yes, American readers would probably call her Sorcha or Sorka. Like
okay,
the Scottish pronunciation, like my audiobook, if you can listen to it on audio, oh my goodness, she's a native Gaelic speaker. It comes across
oh,
more of
perfect.
like Sorka, like that R gets
Sorcha,
rolled.
okay.
Sorka. Yeah.
Mm,
Sorka.
okay. Okay.
But yeah,
Sorcha.
you
Yeah,
can call
I
her
got it.
Sorka.
I got it.
Yeah.
Sorka. I was just like, it was when I was taking notes, I was just like S.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
was just like S does this, S timeline versus Kyaka timeline. Yeah, enjoyed that you defined their path versus the past path versus the present day path, and because Sorka was going south, and
Hmm.
then in present day, Kyaka and her son were going north.
Exactly.
And that kind of adds fun to it as well, because then when I was going through it, I was like, some of these events don't quite make sense yet, but then that's part of the point, right? It took me a minute to
Exactly.
be like, wait a second.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm just as confused as the women.
Yeah, you just have to go along on the journey with them and know that, oh,
Yes.
things will fall into place. And little hints that I dropped about something that she sees that doesn't seem important will be important later. And
Yeah.
that was really fun to write. And I hope it's fun to
Or like one of
read.
them hears a cough
Yeah,
and doesn't like
yeah, it's good
wait, am
stuff.
I losing my mind? Yeah, no,
Really,
once I got the hang of it, it was yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And that's why I started playing with the whole time thing too, is because like I believe in ghosts. I believe in I've seen ghosts. And I don't I call it ghosts, but maybe it's just a vision of energy left behind from the past.
Sure,
And
yeah.
so like with hearing something or seeing something out of the corner of your eye, I thought let's make that part of the story. Like my characters could be seeing those things happening, and it's easy to brush it off as oh my mind was just playing tricks on me, but maybe that wasn't it. Maybe you really did see an impression from the past or the future. Like it's
It's yeah, it's funny because there's I feel like there's 2 types of people or maybe 3 types of people. It's like they either don't believe in it at all or
mhm.
they do, but they don't mess with it. I'm one of those people where I'm like, I'm not negating it. I can't tell my personal experience with the paranormal was with a Ouija board, and ever since then, I have it was like when I was 15 years old, and I don't even know how much of that is real, but I remember I was legitimately spooked. It's a core memory, and I haven't messed with the Ouija board since.
Oh
And you're
yeah.
not supposed to yeah, you're not supposed to be in the room if you're not participating, so I'm like, "You guys have fun, I'm gonna remove myself from the situation. No, thank you. I don't care if
Yeah.
I'm being silly or stupid." And then there's people probably in your camp who are like my mom too, where she's, "No, what's this? You see this mark in the picture?" And I'm kinda like, "Mom, was maybe that was just a water spot." She's,
Yeah.
"No, Megan," like,
Yeah, no, I don't
things like that.
things like Ouija boards I don't mess with either. I get so and then all those ghost hunter shows on TV, I get so sucked into them, but then I can't sleep all night. Like I really have to monitor myself. Don't go there. And so I just like in this book, it's just so lightly skimming the surface of that world. So
Yeah.
anybody who doesn't believe, you can just read the book without being offended in any
Yeah.
way. Just
It's
do
okay. No, it's not offensive at all. It's just what suspension of disbelief, right? It's you just got to respect the work for what it is, and just
yeah.
immerse yourself in that environment.
Yeah,
So
suspension of
I'm
disbelief.
curious as to know like what if you feel comfortable sharing what were your experiences with ghosts? You said you've seen them before. Was it? I'm curious. Like I want to
Yeah.
explore that.
Okay, one that really comes to mind right now happened to be in Edinburgh in Scotland. My family and I, we were renting an Airbnb right on the Royal Mile. And so it was fifth floor walk up these stone stairs, like this really old building. And my husband, he has a CPAP machine, he has sleep apnea. So we were asleep one night.
Same mine too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people. We were asleep one night and I
Mm.
woke up and I looked over and there was someone, a guy, squatting over the bed or hovering over the bed and looking at my husband's CPAP machine with such a look of confusion on his face, like he could not figure out what this was on my husband's face. And my in my memory, he was dressed in like orange and green, which to me means like a soccer uniform kind of thing.
Oh,
I
okay,
don't know,
sure.
but I looked at him and then I reached for my glasses and I put them on and he looked at me and then he like whooshed backwards out of the room. And then I had to get up and search the entire flat and make sure my kids were okay and
Yeah.
nobody was hiding under their bed. But yeah, maybe I've dreamt that, but it seemed pretty real to me. This ghost was really confused on what a CPAP machine was. Yeah.
And rightly that would make
Yeah.
sense if that was someone from whatever their energy or whatever you want to call it meshing with the future. Yes, that would have been a legitimate concern or confusion on their part. What the hell is this? Like
Yeah. Yeah, but
it's
they
like a
weren't
little
that
jetpack like
yeah.
attached to their face and like yeah.
And he wasn't that old of a ghost if he was in this like nylon soccer uniform, but I don't know. That's what I saw.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that would have freaked me out and I probably wouldn't have yeah, like you mentioned before, I don't think I would have been able to sleep for the rest of the night.
Mhm.
I'm like where if there's ghosts or whatever in my house or spirits, as long as I'm okay, just we can live in harmony. Just don't freak me out. Don't freak out the
Yeah.
kids or the dog. Don't like
Yeah.
you want to be here, that's okay. Just please don't don't make me like want not want to live here. It's
Yeah.
just Like, out of sight, out of mind.
I think it comes down to energies too. I don't know, you like, just like you can feel when humans have negative intentions towards you, I think the same could be true of spirits. Like, you feel when there's something off in the room, and so, yeah, if it's a good ghost and they're a friendly neighbor, then,
Yeah,
nothing to worry about.
yeah. It's like, "Okay, hey, roomie," like,
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Hey, housemate. Oh, yeah. No, I just think it's fascinating because I've spoken to some authors where if the storyline kind of follows along some of that subject matter, it's cool. I just always find it fascinating to find out like what their experiences with it was. I think one of the books that I read was I think it was called The Deception, and it was historical fiction, I think in England, and it was where it was like more of a scheme where they were a medium and they had a scheme like where there was other people in on it making things happen
Oh,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. And so that was like a cool other perspective how they capitalized on that on possible real just monetizing or almost like exploiting family members who are like wanting
Mhm.
to seek out that communication. But that's what that reminded me of because they were like, "No, yeah, I've seen real ghosts and stuff like that." I think the author I was speaking to, she was mentioning the Civil War reenactment, or she visited like the Civil
Oh.
War grounds, some one of those, yeah, and she saw the battlements and the soldiers, the World War I soldiers coming in and doing their thing, like just passing by. And she was like, the way she was talking about it was so casual. She was like, "Oh, I think it's because her mom, I think she was like a child and she spoke to her mom about it and her mom was casual about it now that I remember. And
Mhm.
that's why she was like, "Oh, yeah, no, it's okay." Like,
Yeah.
like, no, that
Just
would
part
freak
of
me out
life.
a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. Like, of course, I'm surprised we haven't seen them sooner. Like, what?
Yeah. When I was my
Yeah,
second book is set during the Civil War era, and when I was doing research for that, I met lots of people around the battlefields who, like, that was just a normal thing to hear voices and see things and see a little kid run past and there's nobody actually there. Yeah. So weird. Oh,
that's so crazy. Yeah, it's a little freaky. And I just want to be like, just I have respect, but just please leave me alone. Like,
yeah, same here.
you have my respect. I'm not interested in doing anything other than that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one.
It's so funny. So, yeah, how did this besides the research and I don't know, because you said you're more of a plotter than a pantser. Did you approach this third book the same way that you approached your other 2 books? Like, anything different, like maybe lessons that you learned from your first 2 releases that maybe you carried on into this one? Anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. I write each storyline like it's a separate book. So I'll plot out the historical story and then with all the story beats, and then I'll figure out what happens in the present day storyline with all the story beats. So it really could be two separate books, but then I intertwine them. But I make sure that they each hit all of the important plot points. Um, and like I said, usually I can write the historical storyline first, and then I go and write the present day, knowing what happens because it's influenced by the historical. On Smoke on the Wind, I realized I had to write them concurrently because they were influencing each other, and so
Yeah.
that was a little different in that I wrote both storylines at the same about the same time, just going back and forth like the reader encounters it. Another thing different about this book that I learned for my first book, I sold my second book to the same publisher just on a proposal. And so I had to write that to a deadline. And I found that I really didn't like that too much. I like to be able to take whatever time necessary to write a story, even if that's years, because that's just, I feel like that I can just get deeper into the story and pull out the nuances of the character and the themes and if I can just allow myself to let it take as long as it needs to take. And so on Smoke on the Wind, when I started that one, I didn't tell my agent about what I was writing. I didn't tell my editor. I sat down and started writing. And it
Mhm.
took a long time. I'm glad for it. It actually took about 5 or 6 years from beginning to end until publishing, which is a really long time considering
I was
most.
gonna say, is it the longest compared to your other 2?
It's hard to quantify, definitely longer than the second book. It's hard to quantify for the first book for The Girl Who Wrote in Silk because I wasn't published, and so I just it took years, and I don't really know when I started that book. So that one, maybe about the same amount of time for that.
Sure.
Yeah, I keep saying I need to figure out how to get faster writing, but at the same time, Maybe not. Maybe this is just my process.
You just found your formula. You've if it I would say, yeah, no, that's a healthy outlook is it takes the time that it takes. And your readers, anybody who's trying to keep an eye out for you, ideally they will be patient too.
Uh,
Because I'm a sucker for historical fiction, but I also understand and appreciate the time and the energy and the research that it takes to make it authentic and to make sure you get everything as accurate as possible for the most part. Like just whether you're doing research, what's available to you, or you're speaking to people who are experts in the field and stuff like that. It's just you want to make sure because you never know. You might miss something if you don't like cover all your bases. And that something that you may or may not miss could be like really pivotal to your plot and all that.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I read so many books and as well as like internet deep dives and visiting the locations that things come to me when I'm ready to receive them, I think, and it's not as quick as I sometimes want it to be.
Yeah, I know. You have to have patience too as the author.
Yeah.
'Cause I can't imagine. I know. I have a friend who she's impatient in general and she's self-published. She's finished a trilogy. She just released the first book in her second trilogy, and I better read for her. But I could tell, I'm like, no, this is her writing style. I could tell she just wants to get to it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so I understand and I appreciate the struggle where you're like, no, you have to have patience with yourself to really flesh out what you need to flesh out and stuff like that. Because it's otherwise you're just, I feel like readers can tell too. They can pick up on that as well if you're trying to like, if you're not exactly like taking your time or just making sure that you're hitting all those steps and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't even really put my finger on what's missing if I rush a book, but something's definitely missing. I don't even know how
Yeah,
I would fix it. It just takes time. Just takes time for it to just
exactly.
mull around in my head or whatever.
Yeah. I do wanna touch on what your, because you did mention it in, like, the author's note in your
Mhm.
acknowledgments and stuff. What draws you to Scotland? Like, you definitely, speaking of the research and the patience that it took, you could tell it's all up in there, the language is in there. I'm half Irish, and I did go to Ireland
Nice.
a few, in 2019, so about 5 or 6 years ago. I took my parents there, my husband and I, and it was amazing, but it was so funny because I tried my best whenever I go visit a country that I'm not really that familiar with. I do my best to pull up Duolingo and try to learn the language and stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
even though people in the UK and that cluster of countries, they speak English, but if you go, because I'm also half Mexican, so I understand the Spanish language, like, on that level. I'm not fluent, but I understand it just from growing up learning it and stuff like that. And same with my husband's family to Italy because 'cause they're Italian, and it was pick it up. You could pick up the Italian language of Spanish or understand the kind of commonalities, the grammar, the syntax, all that. And then even when I went to Germany, I tried to learn, and some of that you could still tell. And it's even if you can't necessarily pick up on it intuitively, you read it and it's a lot of it is spelled where you can read it. But like
Mm.
with Irish or Gaelic or the Scottish Gaelic, the Irish Gaelic, it's phonetically it is not spelled how it sounds at all, like, at least not by American or English speaking conventions, how we're used to. So I just like, it just a lot of that was I was familiar with it, but only because I attempted it before, and I was like,
Yeah.
I already know I'm not even gonna try. I just read it and I'm like, one of those where if you come across a name in a book and you just, like, gloss over it, like
Yeah.
and like stuff like that. So I explored what draws you to Scotland because you captured the views and the landscape, but you also captured the emotional like impact of what they're going through and traveling these long distances and encountering the different landscapes and the unforgiving terrains and just the different types and like the weather and all that. It was so cool and it just really helps me as the reader get really into it. So I just kind of want to explore like why Scotland? Like, what draws you to that? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I don't really fully understand myself why I am so drawn to Scotland, but it actually is my obsession like nowadays. But I could say that
You're not part Scottish, right? You're like, are
oh no, I
you or
am.
yes. Well,
I
then maybe
have
that has something to do with it.
I have Scottish ancestry on my mother's side, and she always loved Scotland, and so I just inherited that from my mom. And then growing up reading like Scottish romances and books set in Scotland, I always loved that. So I guess I was always drawn to the country. But then But my first visit was in 1997, and that was just for a weekend on a business trip, and I loved it. And I knew I needed to go back. But then there got to a point, like, I was reading, like, Susanna Kearsley books. She writes a lot set in Scotland, and other authors' books set in Scotland. And realized one day, like, I have this, like, self-identity that I am a person who loves Scotland, but I really didn't know much about it. And so from that day forward, I started digging in deeper. Like when I was reading a Susanna Kearsley book and she mentioned a location and I didn't know where that was, I'd stop and I'd pull up a map and I'd look it up and so I got to know the geography of Scotland. And then I started diving into the history books and reading more and more. Eventually that came to a day where I was like, I see that Duolingo has Scottish Gaelic. I'm going to start learning this. And so I did. And then the following year I found a group local to me here in the Pacific Northwest that is about the Scottish Gaelic language, learning it and the culture, promoting it. And so I went to their gathering and just met some incredible people and found just I felt like these were my people when you join a group and it just feels right. So that group was called Slean and Gale, and I belong. Today, now I actually happen to be the board president. I got that involved with that
Oh, wow.
group, and so
Fast forward and
fast
I
forward.
took it over, like
No, I just it's a volunteer group and they need volunteers and it was my time because I am passionate about what their mission is. And so it's just like a snowball effect. The more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. The more I visited the country, I did have been back several times. The more I wanted to go back. Like I feel at home there. And I don't know if that's ancestral memory or if that's just me. And also there are a lot of similarities between Scotland and the Pacific Northwest here. I live near Seattle. There's a lot of plants that are the same. The ocean is nearby. And there are similarities. And so I just feel at home. But in 2017, I hiked a long distance trail in Scotland and fell in love with it. And then in 2019, I walked the West Highland Way and knowing that I was going to write this book. And so
Yeah,
and then last year with my husband, I walked the Great Glen Way and that really solidified my love of Scotland. It was just getting off of the tourist path and slowing down
yeah.
and just walking and really seeing the landscape down to the smallest detail of the wildflowers and the animals and the stone ruins and and then the people are amazing and of course I love the language too, so I'm still struggling to learn that, but I'm loving all of it.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. That's so cool. I love that where you're like fast forward to today and that's just part of my personality now and I love that. Good for you for traveling for hiking that and I bet that helped that trail and I bet that helped obviously because that when now that you mention it brings me to Kiara's internal like her reflecting on her
Mhm.
experiences, how much growth she goes through reluctantly, but she has the desire, but she's self-doubt, like, for half of the way there, and then
Mhm.
I don't think this is a spoiler, but she discovers this trip changed me, and this journey changed
Mhm.
me, both the good and the bad, not just, like, physically, but mentally and, like, her relationship with her son, and it's just, like, all of I see the parallels with what you're describing and to how she that's how she grew as a character as well, and it helped her kind of realize so many things about herself, even it's what she's in her early mid 40s, and she's just discovering more about herself, and by where she's, "What can I do now? What can I do next?"
Ye
What you know?
Yeah, she went into it thinking the best is behind me. This isn't much of a spoiler because we learn it early in the book that her husband had cheated on her and wanted to leave her. And then he ended up unexpectedly dying. And so she's still in that state of anger when the book begins and betrayal. I loved being a mom. I loved being a wife, and that it was taken away from me by my husband. And now my son's leaving, which is what I want for him to live his own life. But at the same time, I'm going home to an empty house all on my own. And she really resented that. But then, yeah, so she grows through the journey. Yeah, it's,
It's I connected with her that way because it's just I think a lot of women can connect with that because it's yeah, like, she loves that role. She loves those roles, and
right.
she thought that would be who she was in her life
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
the unforetold future. And when that changed, she didn't have a plan for it and she had to reevaluate what now? And that's just, I think that's the sentiment that a lot of women readers can relate to. It'll resonate with them because it's, yeah, who am I? Like finding yourself back to who you were before you fell in love and got married, before you had a child or multiple children, like that role. Because when people, like I said before, my kids are like, they're still young and they're both boys, 4 and 7. And yeah, it's like me having to reacquaint myself with who was I? Am I still that person?
Right.
But then when people ask about it, I'm like, "You're just leveling up."
Yeah.
It's for lack of better words, you're discovering that's a new role. You're discovering a new part of who you are once you do that. It's like otherwise if you didn't, you would still just be like, oh, single woman or dating woman or professional woman, career woman. But then when you get married, you're learning how you are as a wife and
Mhm.
as an in-law because you're
Mhm.
marrying the family. And then you discover who you are as a mom and that new
Mhm.
role. Who are you in that role? That's an added job title essentially. And yeah, I describe to people like who are before when a couple of my friends had not had kids yet or they were pregnant and I'm like, honestly, don't like you're just leveling up. Like you're just
Yeah.
leveling up. I'm still learning things. You're gonna learn things, and as soon as you learn something, your kid is also gonna learn something, and you're gonna have to play catch up. It's like, oh crap, they can walk now. Like now, I gotta
Yeah.
figure out how to deal with a walking toddler and or a walking infant or whatever. And yeah, and yeah, I appreciated Kaka's character for that and how that just because walking that trail is huge, and she was just like, I'm gonna do this with my son because
Mhm.
my husband is not here to do that with him, and she's didn't want to she's preparing to let him go or let him go on his journey in his life,
Yeah.
and she had an unexpected growth and attachment and perspective change to that, and I appreciated that so much. I just love it. I love character growth in general, but I just it that resonated with me on that level and that aspect for sure.
Cool, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like as women, we like maybe are we're happiest or we reach these goals that we were wanting, being a mom, say, and we're like, I love this. I never want it to end. And then we never decide when that's going to end. It gets decided for us. The kids grow up and they move on with their lives. Or in this case, the empty nest thing. And sometimes we know it's coming, but we pretend it's not coming, and then we're blindsided all of
Mm.
a sudden. And I think that's what happens to Kiaka. And she didn't want to like Scotland because that's what her husband liked with their son, and she didn't want to like hiking because that was their thing. But we'll do these things as moms for our kids, and sometimes it ends up being a blessing in disguise that we didn't see coming.
Yeah, yeah. I do. I feel like yeah. Somebody thinks that you said is yes. This is where yeah, it's coming. I know it's coming. Like I still
Yeah.
got a ways to go, but it's gonna happen like that, where they're gonna be moving on, kicking them out of the nest, or reluctantly watching them grow up. And I'm not looking forward to the day when we're not their like focus. So they're
Mhm.
gonna make more friends, and they're gonna get older and their brain's going to develop and their social circle is going to develop and their interests are going to develop and they're all of a sudden it's not going to be like oh you're my little boy, but they're just like okay mom I want to go play with my friends now.
Mhm.
I know it's coming. I know it's coming. And it's also funny because I'm just noticing the traits of that they take from both me and my husband too, because I'm just like there's maybe you could prepare yourself by knowing yourself and knowing your partner, but at the same time you're just like, "Oh, no." Like, you're like, "It's happening. He's obsessed with this, and I know it's from my husband," you know? Yeah,
Exactly.
you gotta prepare yourself the best you can, or you're mindful of it, but then you don't know, like, how the emotional impact until it happens, and that's, like, with so much with both of the women. I was just oh.
Mhm.
It's like words are hard to come by without being super spoilery, but I just so many of the moments of these women that had to make choices, really tough choices, or they were at the mercy of their circumstances that they have
Mhm.
very little control over.
Mhm.
And it's just like how and the connection between them is they're both mothers and they're both traveling this country and both watching their sons, looking out for their sons, and they're both like milestones slash coming of age moments in both of their sons' lives. And I just as it got towards the end, it was I feel like the last 100 pages of any book is just like when it hits you the hardest, but I it made me feel so many things, especially as a mom of 2 boys, and I was just like, "No." I was just like I felt it,
Yeah.
and I didn't like it. I didn't like it because I know I could relate to it, and I can imagine it,
Mhm.
and it can resonate, and so I'm like, I'm just sitting there, like, finishing the book, and I was like, "What the fuck, Kelly?" Like, the wearing at you, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have a bone to pick with her later today," but yeah, it hits you, but it's all that's how you connect with your readers, is when you just got you're developing these stories for these characters and their growth and the journeys that they have to go through, and again, bringing that role of mother or
Mhm.
bringing that role of widow, bringing that role of traveler or whatever into all of that. It is just yeah, it was the emotional impact was there, but it definitely helps to connect with the reader, but also help me, like, reflect on it, and I would be a horrible character because I'm like, "What are you doing? Just be honest with your son."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Just tell him," but I'm like, "No, because then there wouldn't be as much tension, there wouldn't be as much that would be a plot point that just wouldn't happen if they were just honest from the get-go." Like, they're trying to protect their children when me, I'm frustrated, but then I'm like, "No, I've never been in that position, so I don't I don't know what it's like to run away from a false accusation of
Yeah.
murder, and, like, I don't
Yeah.
know, I don't know what that's like, so I don't know how I would act. I imagine something similar.
I'm actually it's surprising because I'm the one who wrote it, but I'm a little more like you. Like I just want her to like just have the conversation. Don't hold any secrets. But yet I had to like I she had those secrets for a reason. For her son's sake, she was not telling him certain things. We're talking about Kiyaka here. And but then back to what you were just saying a little bit ago, too. I'm also a mom of two sons, and they are both young adults now, but they are both living back home again. One after college graduation, he's starting his business. But yeah, so I'm like, I just poured all of my emotions into these characters, and I love this kid so much, and he's taught me so much about the world, and I just want to put him into my pocket and keep him safe as like when he was a little tyke, but he's his own person now and he's going out into the world, and it's a hard thing as a mom or any parent. Dads, I'm sure, feel this too, but it's hard to these kids that we love so much to launch them into the world without us. But then too, it's
Yeah.
also an opportunity. And that's something that again, oh, spoilers. It's hard to know how to, I'm not a reader who minds spoilers. And so it's hard I get reassured when I know what's going to happen at the end of the story. And so when I'm talking and trying to avoid spoilers, I have to really be vigilant that I don't let anything slip because I know readers don't like spoilers. Okay, I'm just going to stop
Yeah.
talking there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, because the spoilery parts are yeah, they have, I would arguably more of an emotional impact than the non-spoilery bits, and you raise the stakes when with things that it's yeah, you want the spoilers of the reason that you try to hold back on them is because there's like big moments. But then also I've encountered authors and readers like that who are like, "No, I'll skip to the end to make
Uh-huh.
sure." And I'm like, I don't it just reminds me of the whole like with Sarah J. Maas, her whole like Maas first, and I'm like, I see so much character art, or even like other books, I'll see so much character art, and then I'm like, when I finally hop on the train and read the books, and I'm like, I know that this couple is not end game, so I have no investment, and so that's
Oh,
really the only point where I'm like that. I feel like that it robs me a little bit if I
true.
already know which couple is end game, stuff like that,
Mhm.
where I know how it's kind of that's when it takes away a little bit from the emotions of it. And but then it's kind of like I got my husband reading Throne of Glass right now, so now I'm like, okay, like what part are you at? But he's not on like Instagram or Bookstagram or anything like that, so I can read vicariously
Mm.
through him and get his reactions and stuff like that
Yeah,
as
that's
they come
fun.
in. Yeah, it is fun. When I asked my friend, I was like, okay, what do I start with? And then she told me, but then I've had to receive so much character art where I was like, I'm not invested in this relationship because I already know. I don't know what's going to happen to them, but I already know he's not going to end up with her. So I'm like, it's just maybe there's other details where I'm like, oh, so that's how it ends. Oh shit, which can also still be fun. But yeah, that's an example of like why I'm like, I could see why people don't like spoilers, but I can also see how some people like some readers need that. It's okay. I get
Yeah,
it.
we need the variance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it can be different for something that's not like a whole series, right? If it's a series, it's different, but versus because right now I'm on the Brandon Sanderson Stormlight Archive. I'm finally on book 5, but it's been really hard for me to not follow accounts. When I follow accounts, it's been really hard for me to be careful because I have a tendency to read comments too to see what other people say about it. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh shit, somebody said something that I didn't know yet. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope for
It
sure.
is. Yeah.
It's funny. It's just like the kind of it's like the reader bonding. Let's just go either one of the readers, hardcore readers. It's like one of our agreed upon unspoken frustrations or controversial opinions or whatever. It's fun stuff like that where it's oh I spoiled myself or oh I did this or oh I'm gonna record my husband's response and reaction to this event. What chapter are you on? Okay. I'm like waiting for it. I'm waiting for it, but then he's on what? Okay. That's mostly with the romance parts of it, where some scenes where women are just like, "Oh my god, yes,"
Yeah.
and then the husband's like, "Yeah, okay, so like,
And you're like, "Man, I was waiting for your reaction." Yeah. That's
yeah,
disappointing.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, yeah." He's like, "What? Yeah, okay, so what?" It's like, "Okay, you're no fun. You're no fun. You're supposed to make this more enjoyable for me." So speaking of, a little segue into that. So what were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
Okay. Most challenging. I think the most challenging was the hiking because
Mm,
I had hiked that trail and I wanted to put every little detail that I loved about it in, but it wasn't pertinent to the story. And so it was knowing what to leave in and what to leave out, but also not keep repeating over and over again that her feet hurt. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that actually was probably the most difficult and just making it realistic and interesting. But yeah, keeping the story moving forward. The most enjoyable was the times when the 2 timelines bumped up against each other. Yeah, when there was crossover or some winks at the other timeline. That was super fun for me because like we talked about earlier, that was new for me to write that. I don't write paranormal or anything, and so it was just super fun to just allow myself that freedom to I'm going to put this in and she's going to see this when I wouldn't have allowed that in a previous book, and so I really had fun with that.
yeah, and like just coming up with a way to for them to for Kaka to be aware of that person, of Sorcha. Yeah, it's like how are you gonna capture and make that connection where Kaka can't? She's keeping an eye out or an ear out for her,
Huh?
like where okay, first she sees a painting and then she's notices little I don't think it's a spoiler either, but she notices like the little carvings and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I thought, yeah, I think that's really cool too, how you had to figure that out. Like you had to figure, okay, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna make it make sense? And
Yeah.
yeah, especially since you've never done it before. You're
Yeah,
like, how
it
do I
was
do that?
super fun to just let my imagination go wild and allow myself the
Yeah.
freedom to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, touching on your experience walking the trail, I respect the hell out of it because you're absolutely right because it really is mind over matter sometimes where like your feet
Mhm.
are bothering you every step. It's like a rock in your shoe. Even a rock in your shoe is gonna piss me off.
Yeah.
Like, you can't ignore it. It's there. And yeah, and I am it's funny. So commenting on that, I've spoken to an author who wrote a memoir about her journey walking the Appalachian Trail when she was like in her mid 20s and her experience doing that. She did the whole thing, her
Mhm.
and her best friend, and the experiences she had along the way, which was really fun because I was like, I didn't know what to expect, but at the top of each chapter, she said, okay, what day it was, the date, and then how many miles they had left. And so when you get towards the end, you're like, oh my God, they have less than 100 miles over what, like 2,000 or something like that. And so, yeah, when reading about the West Highland Way, that's what it reminded me of. And then when reading your notes, how you were like, you did it, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. But then, although you guys are crazy, I respect it, but you guys are crazy. But then reflecting on that, I'm like, I've done the Chicago Marathon twice. So I was just as crazy
Yeah.
at one point because it's like, you don't really at the end of the day, it's just one step in front of the other.
Yeah.
And but
Exactly.
it's but there's so many implications of that because you're just spending miles and miles, and you're just like, oh my god, how long until our destination for the night? And
Yeah.
I like that's I'm like I totally respect that because it's a lot. A lot. It's mental, physical, all that.
Yeah, there are many times on these long trails where you just can just focus on one step, just one step, and then the next step, and then the next step, and then eventually you get there. But what really pulls me along on these trails is knowing the history that happened in those areas. Like the first long distance trail I walked in Scotland was the East Highland Way, and I didn't take the time to research the history before that. And while I loved the walk and I loved the company I was with and I enjoyed the scenery, like I was surprisingly like I got done and went, okay, that was fun, but I didn't love it. And so the next one I did was the West Highland Way. And I spent a couple years researching the history first because also I knew I was going to write this book. And so it was like researching it for this book, but also to see how that influenced my experience of the trail. And it was amazing because that pulled me forward. What I love about these kind of hikes is it's a through hike. You never have to go back over the same area again. You just keep moving forward. And so I just like knowing the history, like one of the most difficult sections of the West Highland Way is along the Loch Lomond, along the loch side. But I knew that is the area where Rob Roy McGregor once lived, and he was, like, this famous outlaw. Liam Neeson portrayed him in a movie, like, he was he's so knowing that history, I was like, "Just imagine, I know his cave is right up here. We'll just walk a little further and we get to see this, and walk a little further and this other thing
Oh,
happened." And up here, I know that there's this tiny island in the middle of the loch where you can't see anything, but I know that there's a castle ruins on that
yeah.
just that just keeps pulling me along, and I just find that magical. I love that.
It is. No, I could totally respect and appreciate that because it does add those layers to what otherwise would be a walk, like a
Right.
hike. And it's just because the European countries, there's just so much more history there than there obviously than in America. And it's just holy crap. How long has this been here? Over years and decades and centuries. And just yeah, it adds that little like special like Easter egg. It adds like a little
Yeah.
special like something to look forward to. And I just I was like, was that Colin? Was that why Colin where Colin came in? Like
Yeah. He
I was
was
like,
my history
you
and MA
inserted
expert, yeah.
yeah, you inserted your history nerd
Uh-huh.
persona into Colin. Yeah.
Exactly. But too, like, what I love about it too is, like, one day, like, we were hiking in Glencoe, and the rain was coming down sideways, and we had forgotten our waterproof trousers.
Oh,
And so
no.
we were soaked to the bone, and that was a day when it was just focus on one step in front of the other. We weren't my I hiked it with my son, who was 16 at the time. We weren't talking, we weren't gonna stop and eat lunch, we were just gonna get to the destination. It was a miserable day, but I was thinking about all the history that had taken place in that land that I was walking, and I just felt such a connection, like, my ancestors might have walked on this very trail because it was a military road built, like, in the 1700s. They might have walked this very trail, and then think about all the people who have walked the West Highland Way and who are still to come to walk the West Highland Way, and
Yeah,
I had this moment of, I am connected to all of these people throughout time, and that's pretty magical. Yeah, it felt pretty neat.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. It does. It adds like it's and you had Kakak realize that too, which I
yeah.
loved because yeah, you're absolutely right. You feel that sense of belonging or that like little secret. It's this I'm traveling somewhere where the tourists don't necessarily go. And it's just
Yeah.
a special little connection between the people those of us who did do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is rough. Oh my God, it's rough on a good day, on a beautiful day. I can't imagine like when the rain's coming down and he said it was sideways. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God,
It was blowing, yeah,
yeah,
and
it sounds
yet
horrible.
and yet when you're hiking in Scotland, when it's raining or it's windy, you're grateful because then the midges aren't biting. Those are like little
Oh,
tiny kinda like mosquitoes, but smaller, and they, like, get in your nose and your eyelashes, and they're just yeah,
oh,
and they bite. They're yeah.
oh,
So there's
oh
always
my God,
something
no,
going on.
it makes everything that much worse. No, I just remember I went to the Rocky Mountains for half a day. When my sister and I went to go visit my brother a few years ago, and that was like one of the goals because I've always wanted to do it. I've done the Smoky Mountains, and it was
Mhm.
like it was so cool and beautiful. and it did had the majestic quality to it, just nature and the land. And I was like, yeah, I think, yeah, I would like to. The bucket list item was the Rocky Mountains, but we went in October. And at first we were like maybe a little bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. We were like optimistic and yeah, we could, let's see how this goes. We'll go on the longer route. We'll see. Because it was like there was like a mile marker and then there was like a
Uh,
3 mile marker where it was like, okay, once we hit a certain point, we'll turn around and go back. But then it started snowing like that
Oh no.
weekend. It started snowing while we were out there
Oh.
in Colorado, and it was just like it ended up by the end of that day, I think there was like 6 to 8 inches or something like
Oh
that.
my goodness.
And yeah, and being from the Chicago area, so it's like we get our fair amount of almost all types of weather. So it wasn't anything I was balking at, but it was just like, oh, like we're walking on foot in mountains. But like
Mhm.
you reach out, you're like, this is a mountain. Like you're
Mhm.
walking alongside the mountain, and it was still added to the beauty because you're looking around and it's just pine trees like snow capped, and it adds to the beauty
Yeah.
and the serenity because the snow absorbs the sound. But I just remember we were really optimistic, but it took us forever to reach the shortest like loop around. We're
Mhm.
like, I think we're done. We could turn around and go back
Yeah.
because we were just like, oh, we've got the experience. We're good. I'm good. Otherwise, it's gonna take like twice as long, and then we still have to like loop back around and come back to the car. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
it was one of those. Yeah.
with snow involved too, it could turn dangerous fast, and yeah,
Oh
yeah, you gotta
yeah.
be
Oh
prepared when you're
yeah.
out there doing these things.
I know. Yeah, because I don't have hiking shoes, but I brought my workout shoes, like my running shoes, like my boot. Like I brought shoes that I have traction, some traction
Mhm.
on them, but I wasn't prepared for all the snow. And I think even my sister slipped at one point. She was okay, but she slipped,
Mhm.
and but she's 10 years older than me, so I was like, "Oh, are you okay?" And then because I made the mistake of wearing workout pants instead of like jeans. Even though I wore leggings underneath my pants, it was still like I had clumps of ice and snow
Oh,
that took forever to melt. So it was almost like little ankle weights.
oh,
Like,
wow.
and
Yeah.
then when we stopped by a restaurant to eat and recuperate before we hit the road again, I felt so awkward because everywhere I walked, you could see it. Like you could see my little clumps on the bottom of my pants, and I even tried to hold my pants underneath like the hand dryer in the bathroom, and it just did not. No, okay, well,
No.
sorry, my brother, it's like you're gonna have a soaked back seat for a hot second. Like
Uh-huh.
he didn't really get bothered, but yeah, just stuff like that, just like the physical, just humans enjoying what the earth, like the natural earth has to offer. And
Mhm.
just it reminds me of, oh, there's places like that all over the world. And
Mhm.
your character Clara, I think it was, who she like knew all these different trails and she's
Yeah.
done all these different things before. I'm like, man, I was like, that's so cool because there are people out there who that's their destination. That's what they go
Yeah.
travel to do, to just go to these either different trails or these different hikes and these
Mhm.
different landmarks where there's physical activity involved involved.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really vacation, you're going there to explore something that you want to do.
Yeah, I've really fallen in love with that kind of travel. It's slow and more detail, and you get to talking to more people from all over the world. And yeah,
Mhm.
it's magical. If I encourage anyone to try it. There's all kinds of trails out there in the world to get onto. Yeah.
There is, yeah, it does appeal to me in a certain sense. Because when I travel, I don't go, that's not something I ever thought to do, but now I'm like, I think it would be cool to go make a trip out of doing something like that because that is,
Yeah.
like, unique. And when I went to Hawaii, my husband had celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and one of the things he really wanted to do was do Diamond Head, like,
Mhm.
hike a crater. And it was even, like, one of the more basic trails and hikes, but it was pretty demanding, and
Yeah.
I feel I'm not in as good of shape as I was before years ago. I feel like I'm still, for the most part, I can stick it out. But it was really funny to be like, I was like, okay, that was our exercise for the week. And then also it was funny to like overhear other people like who were doing the same thing. I think I like passed by this woman, this middle-aged woman who and we're like, it was like the last stretch where there's an option where you can either do the more natural way or you could do the stairs where it's like you
Mhm.
get there quicker, but it's like really steep because it's just all the way up. And I just remember overhearing a woman, she stopped and she looked up, she's, "Oh, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
Like,
And you're like, "My thoughts exactly."
yep,
Yep.
yep, I'm right there with you, girl. Come on, we're almost there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's no, that exactly how the sentiment that you have just with the conversation and in the book too. It's like it's connecting with people. And
Mhm.
also it's like that sharing those sentiments and sharing that experience and those experiences with other people from who knows where, like around the
Yeah.
world, and you guys are all experiencing the same thing at the same time for whatever reason. And so
Mhm.
I thought it was so cool how, because that's obviously part of the experience of doing something like that, where you're going to encounter people, you're going to make connections with people,
Mhm.
and you might end up hanging out through the rest of the way with them. Or, okay,
Yeah.
meet up at this point, stuff like that.
Yeah, when my son and I hiked the West Highland Way, we got to know this one couple. They were both from it was 2 guys from Hong Kong, but they now live in London, and we've followed each other on social media, and, like, we're still connected after all it's been 6 years since we hiked the West Highland Way, but I feel like we're friends. We've made friends
Yeah,
around the world based on this shared activity we did and this shared
exactly.
experience, yeah.
Yeah, it's that little nod. It's I know we both know, you guys all know what you guys went through together.
Yeah.
And then it's definitely like that that shared, I don't know, you bond over that stress and that physical activity and those
Mhm.
similar feelings and emotions, and maybe you're reaching the peak, maybe you're reaching your limit, and but it's then you look and it's like, you even if you speak to someone who has done it before, but you're just meeting them, and there's already that little click, that little know-how, that little like
Exactly.
connection.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I got a little bit more respect to you. A little
Yeah.
bit more.
Which that
For
that
sure.
reminds me of something else I wanted to say is there's no right way to have these kinds of adventures. Like Kiaka and actually my son and I, we did the stay in bed and breakfasts and hotels and have a luggage carrier route to the West Highland Way. And there are people like a couple weeks ago, I was talking to another author. I won't say his name, but he had recently walked the Camino de Santiago. And he was a lot of these people have this attitude, you're not doing it right if you're not carrying everything on your back, or you're not doing it right if you make reservations ahead of time. You just have if you end up sleeping on a cardboard box at this fire station, then that's and I'm like, first of all, you're a middle-aged white man. You have that privilege where women wouldn't feel safe doing that,
No,
um
yeah.
but there's no right way. If you just you still have that bonding that we were just talking about with the other walkers on these in these experiences, and you can still sleep in a soft bed and get a hot shower and a hot meal every day, and that's what I love about hiking in Europe is you hike town to town and do this, and so it's not like the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian Trail that you're out there for months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but there's
Yeah,
something
where
for
you're
everybody.
still exactly. No, and that reminds me of that's where the kind of contrasting between the European hiking trails and the American is where there's a whole community that they have to rely on.
True.
Like the author that I spoke to, there she was like, "Oh yeah, we hitchhiked. We know how dangerous it is, but it's so normal out there."
Yeah.
Where there's people who just it's so normal for them, like the locals, to just drive by and be like, "Oh, do you doing the trail? You need a ride? Like you need
Yeah.
blah blah blah. You need a meal? You need a shower? Here, I know this place or whatever. You need toothpaste? Here's the store." There's little things like that. The locals like, and she reiterated to me like the Appalachian Trail would not be as like travelable. I don't know if that's a word,
Mhm.
but doable
Mhm.
if without that community,
Yeah.
without the people along the was it from Georgia to Pennsylvania or whatever, like what those
Maine, yeah.
state yeah,
Yeah.
to Maine, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, like there wouldn't be, it just wouldn't be as successful or as doable without the community for sure.
yeah, those trail angels are definitely needed. They're yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that. I love it. It's like that's what just you're reminded of just human beings, humans, and kind of restoring faith, and there's understanding there, and I just love it how there's just, "Oh, say no more. You're doing the trail? I got
Yep.
you." It's like
Yep.
like, "Here, this is my first rodeo. What do you need?"
Right.
But no, I think I'm right there with you. I think if I were ever to do, because we just went camping this weekend. It's been so hot lately,
Mhm.
and it wasn't even, like, that far. It was, like, an hour away from our house at, like, a campground, but we were able to they have sites with electricity, so it wasn't like we weren't glamping, but we weren't totally roughing it. It was like I
Mhm.
could still charge my phone, we could still play music, we could still, like,
Nice.
our friends could hook up their camper, which is super helpful, but and luckily it had a lake and a beach with a lake and stuff like that, but I just I never camped growing up. We never did
Mhm.
it. I grew up, like, really close to Chicago. We're more out in the suburbs now, but that was just never that wasn't my parents' thing, but my husband, they were Eagle Scouts. He's an Eagle
Mm.
Scout. They were Boy Scouts all throughout. so that he has a system. He knows.
Yeah.
He knows. And
He's
so
got it
he's
down.
a camper and I'm like, exactly. And like he knows what to do. He's go to the dollar store and get pots and pans for camping. I'm like, what? Okay, I guess that makes sense, but still, like, he it's just things that I just don't know. So I'm like, I'd be totally fine if I never had to camp again ever in my life. But I'm like, "Fine, we'll give our kids these experiences and these activities and fine." But
Yeah.
I don't mind glamping. I don't mind getting a cabin and just enjoying wilderness all weekend as long as I have
Mhm.
and I don't mind. I rough it. I rough it with a tent and the air
Mhm.
mattress. I rough it. It's
Mhm.
fine. I deal with it. But I'm also like, I do it for other people. I don't do it because I enjoy it. I do it because I'm like, no, it's my family who wants to do it.
Yeah.
And but so to speak to that, like, I think I could do that. I think I could definitely look forward to hiking and just doing what a 10, 15 miles a day if I knew I had a like a hot bed or a warm bed and a hot meal,
Yeah.
somewhere to grab a beer for a good day's work, like something like
Exactly.
that, where and then just, somewhere to meet up with other people and just
Yeah.
relax and stuff like that. I would be open to that. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't I you're a stronger woman than I am,
No,
bitch, if you're roughing
you
it.
gotta go hiking in Europe then. It's so fun to do that, and like you said, you just end up at a pub at the end of the day, and it's fabulous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and they all know. They're like, "Oh, how
Yep.
many miles you do today?" Or, "Where'd you go?"
"Where are you going tomorrow?"
I
"Okay."
love that.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
fun.
To be the bartender, to be a
Yeah.
fly on the wall in some of those places, they meet all
Oh, yeah,
walks of life,
for sure.
for sure. Okay, so just a couple more questions because 'cause I'm realizing I
Yeah.
would just suck you in here forever if I wasn't watching myself. Okay, so let's see, Kelli Estes, what is next for you? Are you working on anything that you could talk about?
Like I said, my stories come to me very slowly. Nothing has I'm a story's forming in my mind, but nothing that I'm ready to talk about. Yeah.
It's okay. It's funny because when I talk to authors, they're like, I'm not announcing it yet." I'm like, "I don't wanna get you in trouble, so it's
Yeah,
okay."
no. Yeah, for me, it's more of I don't like ideas lose their magic if I talk about them too much. So I just keep it to myself. I won't even tell my agent or editor until it's almost a full book. So
Yeah.
that's just again my strange process. Yeah, I need to keep that magic for myself for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just like, "Here,
Yeah,
time to get it going."
pretty much.
That's so funny. Hey, don't if that process works for you, don't fix it if it ain't broke.
Yeah.
If that's your process and you've been successful so far and that's what is comfortable for you, keep doing you do you. Okay, so let's see. Oh god, I'm gonna throw this at you. I'm sorry. What advice do you have for Kiaka? What advice do you have for Sorcha?
Oh
Or
boy.
Sorka? I keep saying Sorcha. Sorka.
It
Okay.
totally
What advice
fine.
do you have for
I'm she'll respond to anything.
There we go.
Okay, advice. For Kiaka, I would tell her, depends on the where in the book, but let's say get out of your own way. She needs to just get out of her own way. Stop thinking so hard and just, yeah, let things play out. You'll be fine. You'll be fine in the end. Sortica, I would say, don't lose hope. The things happening to her would make it really easy to lose hope, but hang
Yeah,
on. Yeah. I could say that to everybody in the world today. Don't lose hope. We're in this together.
exactly. It's like yes, yeah, it's like that understanding or that empathy where what you're going through sucks, what other people are going through sucks, but don't lose hope. Like
Mm.
just hang in there. That's solid advice. You're absolutely right. That's why I try to I use that advice for like my kids sometimes. I'm like, trust me, I know. I would be upset too. I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
But this is not an appropriate way to act.
Exactly.
Like I try to be like, I get it. I get it. I would be mad too. However, there's a better way to handle this.
Yeah.
I think that's mostly what it comes down to, even for some adults, man. For some of the behavior I see for grown ass people, I'm just like, dude, just
Uh-huh.
imagine living your life being so like easily triggered by some things. And I'm like, life is too short and there's too much going on to spend energy like just attacking and hating people. I just don't. That's just something that I won't necessarily get. I don't think I'll ever get it.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life is too short, worked up in the things that people are getting worked up about. Just let's bring it back to the love and support and hope
Yeah.
and just everybody's just doing their best.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, what's that term I've heard a lot of? Touch grass. Just go outside, take a breath, realize that you're one person on this
Yeah.
earth. Focus on you. Mind your own business. It takes zero energy to like just
Hmm.
keep your comments to yourself. Like,
Yeah.
really, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. And it sucks for people who are at the victims of such vitriol. It's I don't know.
It's
It
rough.
sucks. I'm at that point where I'm just like, if there's some negative anything coming at me, I'm just like, okay, think that's a nice opinion for you to have. I'm like,
Yeah.
which pisses people off even more. It's just when you're not like responding with equal like energy and emotion. It's just yeah, you look stupid as hell right now.
Yeah. I like that quote that other people's opinion of me is none of my business. I try to remember that. It's
It's so
it's
true.
none of my business
Yeah,
what they
it
think. Yeah.
really is. And it's just yeah, once you embrace that, you're just like you find a little bit more peace.
Yeah,
You're just like,
exactly.
yeah, 100%. Okay, so Kelly Estes, where can we find you online and on social media?
You can find me at my website, kellyestes.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at kelly.estes, on both of those. And that's, yeah, you can subscribe to my newsletter. The link is on my website. And I try to send out like freebies and behind the scenes stuff through those. So that's where you can find me.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so Kelly Estes, Smoke on the Wind. That book is available now. Thank you so much for your time and your answers and your generosity and your vulnerability and anything that you felt comfortable sharing. Again, this book was emotional. It made me feel a lot of things, some things that I didn't expect to feel. I'm mad, but not really mad about it. I recommend it to historical fiction lovers, to people who want to explore something a little bit different for dual timeline, all that good stuff. And yeah, when and if you're ready to talk about whatever you're working on next, feel free to come back. I'd love to chat again.
Yeah, that'd be fun. This was super fun. I really enjoyed our talk today. Thanks for having me.
And there you go. That was Kelli Estes talking about her book, Smoke on the Wind. That book is available now. Check out the show notes where you can find links to purchase the book or where to find Kelly online and on social media. Please look through those links and also find Cantina Book Club online and on social media as well. Cantina Book Club is available on so many podcast players and YouTube. So please do hit that subscribe and follow button so that you can keep up with any other authors that I might be coming on the podcast soon. Rate, review, subscribe. It helps Cantina Book Club show up for everybody. If you need book recommendations, find my book reviews on cantinabookclub.com. No matter what genre you're looking for, I've got something there for you to consider. And if you do finish a book and you love it and you love the author's work, the one of the best, most helpful ways to support them is to go on Amazon or Goodreads or anywhere that you leave bookish recommendations or keep up or look for reviews and stuff and leave your own rating and review for these authors. It really does help them out more than you guys can ever know. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening.